Well, welcome everyone to Oneness Talk Radio and Intuitive You. This is Abby Gooch, and I am here this morning with a dear friend of mine with a really special subject to talk about for those of you that read the description. And today we're going to talk about self-love and how you deepen that self-love into greater service. Because as you become more of you and more love-filled and more light-filled, you have that to give to our world. And so, as PJ knows, and those of you that have been following the show and my work, it's really about intuition, because our intuition knows. And it's the soul embodied. It's that part of us that just has access to all knowledge and all wisdom. And so when we tap in and we take action on what we know, we can truly heal and create lives we love. So, PJ, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here this morning.
I'm super glad to be here too. I think it's great. We're both wearing purple. How
Right?
funny is that, right? Because it's historically the color of royalty. And I believe, isn't it the top, our crown chakra is purple also?
It is. It is.
Right, right.
Totally.
Well, I think we're wearing the right color for the right conversation.
I think so too. My guys are telling me, they're like, wear that purple jacket. I'm like, why? I'm like, now I know why. So that's kind of the thing with intuition or your intuitive guidance. Like, you don't know why in the moment, but you usually find out later. So it's just a matter of trusting that innate knowing and that gut feeling.
Well, even last night, right? Even last night, I was texting you at the exact same time you were texting me.
I know, right?
It's just
so crazy. It's just amazing.
Well, I mean, we say it's crazy, right? But the more we do it, the more we go, it's just the way of things, you know? But it is. I mean, we can look at it from that like space of awe and be like, oh my God, this is so crazy. This is so amazing that this happens. And we shouldn't lose that childlike excitement and wonder. But there's also that other side where we're like, of course it's like that. That's just the way things are. You know, it's just another way of communicating with the universe.
Just synchronicity, right? To me, it's like harmony and alignment of things coming together, right? So it's like matching the energy of what you want to create, right? So intuition also helps you step into the beingness, right? And the vibration of what you want to experience. So as you listen to that guidance, you're like, oh my goodness, here I am experiencing the reality that I said I wanted, because I'm listening to my intuition, to that innate knowing.
And I think it's cyclical, right? If you step into your intuition, or you become more aware of your intuition, then you naturally step into that being. But also, if you step into the beingness, the intuition arises naturally as another component of conversation or communication, or just a level of awareness and alignment, like you mentioned earlier. And so I think they support each other. One doesn't exist without the other.
Right. Oh, 100%. I know when I started the Intuitive Success Club, which is our online certification program, I literally had the tagline, like, a new way of being, because it was like, you literally are becoming it. You're becoming your soul embodied, right? You're being the energy, right? And it's like that being translates into the experience, right? And that's like why we're here, is to experience, right? And
you know, I love languages. I would love to say that I spoke a lot of languages, and I can say words and phrases in like 18 different languages. But I'm really only fluent in like English and Pig Latin. Right? I can speak a little Spanish, a little Japanese, you know, a little bit of different languages. But if I understand correctly, in Hebrew, there's not a word be, like becoming, like as in like moving into the future. There's only the beingness, the presence, the I am that I am, that idea that there's only like, instead of, well, I'm going to become that. No, there's just the flipping the switch of I am now being that. Right. And so a lot of times we hear people talk about, well, how do they say it? Like act as if, right? Or fake it until you make it. I don't like either of those. I think that the best actors in the world are the ones who just become the character in that moment, and they lose themselves to the character. They just become the character. And so when we shift into the beingness, all of the worries and the doubts and the fears and the struggles and the suffering and the distractions of everyday life wash away, and the only thing left is the beingness. And that's where the presence is, with the capital P, and that's where the awareness of intuition is, and that's where the self-love can start, because the self-love then doesn't have to filter through anything, because it's already present, it's already there.
Wow, I love this. So, is there a way that you tap into the beingness, like how you connect to that I am presence, like a practice you have?
Yeah, for me there is, and it gets quicker and quicker the more I use it, right? So the way I describe it for the average person is I have them look at something in the distance, maybe 20 feet away, right? Like a tree, for
Yeah,
example. And when you look at that tree, I have you become aware of the space
yeah,
between you and the tree.
yeah.
And as you become aware of the space between you and the tree, I have you then become aware. I mean, there's a couple of different ways that I do this. I have you become, so I'll give you both ways. I have you become aware of the space that's inside of you, meaning between your cells, between your atoms, between your neutrons, between your electrons, between your protons, between the quarks, right? Because we're mostly space anyway. And so I have you become aware of this space within you. So now you're initially aware of the space between you and the tree. And now you become aware of the space inside of you by physically relaxing. And as you physically relax your body, you start to feel like there's tension inside of you that starts to release. And when it's released, there's an openness that occurs. And then I have you become aware of the fact that the tree is made up of mostly space also. And then
Mm,
we look at the awareness that all that space is the same. And there's no difference, that we're just this emptiness, this openness, this freedom, right? And so that's one way that I do it. And you can even hear the sound of my voice starts to quiet and calm down. That's not me putting on a show. That's me just shifting into oneness. You know, arguably, in traditional practices, it's called non-duality,
mm,
and I'm not really shifting fully into the non-dual. And so there's still this oneness. Oneness can imply that there's also two-ness. And
yeah,
so I'm still very much aware of me and the space between the tree and myself and the
yeah.
tree. But I'm also aware simultaneously of the unity and the oneness of all of that
Mhm,
together. And as soon as we can shift to a place where that disappears, there's only the awareness of oneness,
mhm,
right? Then it becomes more historically traditional or traditionally historical. I don't know how to say it. More traditionally
yeah.
non-dual, meaning there's not two. There's only the awareness that everything is one.
Mm,
Um, and so that's one way where I recognize this space. The other way is I have people shift out of their head and settle down into their body. Like, are you aware, like, of your face? Then can you become aware of your jaw and your ears and your throat and your neck, front, sides, and back? And then are you aware of your shoulders? And then can you settle, like, just let the energy and the awareness settle down into your chest and your body? And when you do that, now can you become aware of the energy inside of the middle of your chest? Like, where is your heart? Can you feel, maybe not feel your heart, maybe you can, but can you feel that center area where there might be a little bit of life or energy? Excuse me. And if you can feel that, now can you feel that energy radiating through your body? And then once you feel the energy radiating through your body, can you now feel the energy around your body, that awareness around your body? When you feel that awareness around your body, now can you extend it out to that same tree or anything else, and be aware that that energy between you and the tree is the same. That same energy that's in you is also in the tree. And when you do that, what happens is there's an awareness outside of your head. There's a feeling inside of your heart that you start to realize there's no separation, there's no difference. And all of a sudden, everything inside of your mind becomes quiet and still. And there's just the presence with a capital P. There's just the listening. There's just the singularity, right? Even the birds that I hear right now, they're just part of the one whole orchestra, the one universe, one verse song, the one song.
beautiful. I never knew that's what universe translated into. How cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of my favorites. I'm actually working on my second book, which is so funny because I know you have a book too, that it's called The Universal Language of Love. And so I love that you're
Oh,
talking about language, but like the universal language of love is this presence. It is this presence of love. And just being in that space, it naturally, it unfolds, like more love unfolds. And that connection to greater love through our hearts is what's felt and shared. And the inspiration is when I first went to Thailand for the first time. And it's like, did not know anything other than Swadika, which is like hello in Thai, right? And it just was so taken care of, like each moment, by the people there. It was just so incredible. And so I just really learned that, and I kind of always knew, but had the experience of the heart being that greatest teacher and language.
It really is. And, I like to say that the definition of love is the willing exchange of oneself for oneness. The willing exchange of oneself, meaning your own ego and the awareness of self, the willing exchange of oneself for oneness. Because when we actually love, that feeling of love, if we really pour ourselves into it and we lose ourselves to it, we literally lose ourselves to it. And there's only the awareness of the love, the connection, that vibrant energy that connects the two souls. And so when we move through that, even in that foreign country where you were, provided you're in, a safe neighborhood, obviously.
No, it was safe because they were safe, because love is safe.
Yeah.
And I followed my intuition. So that was the beauty, is like I was
Yeah.
totally safe because I was guided by intuition. And when you're in that space, I was like, literally, I got lost in the middle of the city and quote unquote lost, ended up at a temple, and they're like literally bringing me like food and water. I'm just like, what? Like, it was just so incredibly magical. Like, everywhere I went, I was safe, truly, because I was guided by my intuition. And that is the beauty of intuition. If you're truly listening to it, you will always be safe, because it's your inner guidance that's aligned with the love of your soul. So you are safe and protected by following it. That's what's so just incredible.
Do you know, do you think, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that because I have my own opinions, that when we are witnessing the intuition, that we are, it's a two-step process. The intuition comes into us and we basically hear it, or are aware of it, and then we act on it? Or do you think that when we're truly connected and aligned, that it just flows through us and we become it? So we walk as if we are already in that knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we are not consciously aware of what's going on, we're just consciously aware that I feel moved to go in this way, and so I'm moving that way simultaneously. Meaning, is it a 1-2, or is it just a single flow?
Huh. So my innate intuitive response is, you don't witness your intuition, you are your intuition. So I think, to answer your question, it's probably the second part. Like, it's because it's already within you, and I'm just so used to following it. It's like it's trusting it. It's almost like deep down we all know. Like, we all know the truth when we really just sit and we feel that presence.
Yeah.
So to listen, the inner hearing, the inner seeing, the inner knowing of the clairsentience, which is your body, that I love that you really helped us become more aware of. The guidance is there. So you are one with your intuition. And then the question usually comes, are you following it? Because often I feel like fear can disconnect you from intuition.
And distractions, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it can kind of bring you into this almost like whirlwind sometimes, where if you drop into your center, your stillness, like you took us into, the next right action, the next right step, to move in alignment with what you want.
I agree with you 100% that it is that the natural flow, right? In Zen, they might ask you a koan or riddle, right? And it might be, how do you know when you're in meditation, right? And the answer is you don't, because you're in meditation, right? So you've lost yourself to everything. And so we hear about, oh, I was following my gut, right? It feels like that. Like, it just feels like when we settle, and I don't mean settle like, okay, I guess I'll just accept this.
Right.
I mean settle like all the energy and the chaos and the distractions are up in our head, and we settle down into our body, like from the neck down. And there's, excuse me.
You okay?
And we settle down into our heart, and even lower, below our belly button, and down into our sort of our lower abdomen, right? We're sort of in our guts, right? And we talked about the three different brains: the gut brain, the heart brain, in the actual brain. And so when we sort of follow our gut, and our heart moves along right along with it, and our head moves right along with it, um, there's that cohesion, there's that um, alignment of the three, right? And they all move simultaneously. So we're in that space. It's like we're not even walking. It's like we're being walked.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
yeah. It's like there's life in the space between our pelvis and up through our heart. And it's like that whole piece is just pulling us forward. And our legs are just walking underneath us. And our heads are just exploring and observing and witnessing and experiencing innocently and beautifully. Yeah, I'm glad that you recognize it as one also.
Well, it's just so fascinating because I feel like I'm always prepared for the next moment. And so last night, something was really bothering me and I wanted to like deal with it right away. But my guides are like, no, wait until the morning. And I literally saw like 7 a.m., like the specific time that I needed to make the call. It ended up being a woman named Grace that I talked to that helped me deal with the situation. It was so cool. But the reason I bring this up is there was this alignment piece, right? So my mind and even my emotions were like, man, I want to like deal with this now. It was like a very like, I have to. And it was like, as I moved into my heart and my body, my gut, it was like, no, like wait until 7. And then my guides showed me the exact time. So I moved into, you use the word, I forget the word, cohesion, like coming together. So, yeah. So like moving in with your mind, your heart, and your gut through your body completely. And then there's actually a state of oneness within you where all three minds, your head, your heart, and your gut are working together, and then it makes perfect sense. Now, the reason I teach, gut intuition is that is the deepest level of your intelligence. There's 500 million cells in it. So it actually registers as a higher intelligence in your brain. So it knows so much. Your body has the unconscious awareness, the ability to pick up information without even knowing why or how, right? Like that's the reason you can like walk down a street and start to be like, this doesn't feel good, because your body and your intuition's like, probably not the best street. My intuition's going to guide me down this way. And so you're trusting that, like, I'm so sensitive. It'll literally be like each little turn, and it's kind of like, I feel like, a friend the other day said, yeah, I'd be like, you're sensitive. It's great. Just accept it. It's okay. So like those of you who are that sensitive, it's like, it's great. Like you are that sensitive for a reason, and honor your intuition where you're being guided, and trust, that full oneness within yourself can happen as you move into the stillness of your heart. So, each, thought can be met with the love of your heart, and then moves down into your gut and your belly, and then it just ripples this love, and you know how to handle the situation or which direction to go or how to create whatever it is.
Yeah, and then it's as if we're floating through life.
Yeah.
Right? It pulls us through,
right.
And everything it's like we're floating on the fragrance of heaven. I remember traveling through Palm Springs in April, I don't know, years ago. And all the orange blossoms and lemon blossoms were blooming, and the entire city smelled like heaven. You just felt like you were floating through the city on the fragrance of the blossoms. It was unbelievable. I've never smelled or experienced anything so beautiful as that. And so just floating through like that, that's the way it feels like when the intuition is leading. It just feels like we're floating through life. And if everybody lived in this level of congruence, right? Or cohesion, however you want to say it, this congruence where the gut and the heart and the head are all in that perfect alignment. And all of a sudden, like, I think wars would go away, frustration would go away, anger would leave us. There'd be more understanding and peacefulness and patience and depth of understanding. Spiritual alignment would occur for people. Because that's what it is anyway. It's just spiritual alignment. But everything would be healthier and happier and more joyful. And so the more often we can consciously choose to live from this space, even if nobody's around, even if you're not out of your own home, can you move from this space through your own home? Sometimes there are times when I have said to myself, I don't know what to do. And I meant from my head, right? And so I would say, well, I don't feel like I should be doing anything in particular, but I feel like I should be doing something, but I don't know what it is. So I would literally just sit. And sometimes I would sit for 2 hours
Yeah.
and not do anything. I wouldn't meditate. I wouldn't pray. I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't read. I wouldn't be on a phone. I just sat.
Yeah.
And I just sat and I just sat and I just sat. And then at some point I would almost wake up
Yeah.
and realize I was already doing something. So I would wake to the action.
Yeah.
And then when I would wake to the action, all of a sudden there'd be this awareness like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would just follow that lead.
Yeah.
And it's as if our senses, like our brain and the other senses, are just now becoming aware that we're moving through something. So it's a little bit like being on a horse and just, or on a boat and just letting the horse, walk where it's going to go, or the boat float down the river wherever it's going to go. And we just witness and experience and enjoy and drink it all in. It's easy. It makes life really joyful and easy and delicious and peaceful, and um, it makes me really, it's much easier to love yourself from this space because you're not in agony. The root of the word agony, agon, means to be at war with. So if we're struggling to get out of our head, or struggling with distractions, or we're struggling with obligations, or things that we feel like we have to do, all of a sudden that steals us away from the presence with a capital P, from that oneness, from that intuitive model that we were just discussing. So if people do find themselves in that level of chaos in their head, release it. Settle back into the body. Relax your face. Relax the muscles around your ears, your jaw, your neck. Come back into your body. And when we come back into that space, it's like everything opens up again, and we're nurtured, right? The depth of our souls becomes nurtured again.
Yeah. I think it's about, trusting and having the faith that you're taken care of. So I feel like the source of fear is a disconnection from love, right? Whether it's like a physical, financial, emotional, whatever thing where, sometimes we can feel separated. And it's just moments of that feeling when the truth is love is in everything, right? But you may set, certain boundaries if something doesn't feel loving, but that's loving to yourself. And so being in an awareness of within the oneness, there is this container of love within you, that as you experience yourself connected to the greater whole, you know that you are totally held. And I feel like to just let yourself feel that, feel the presence holding you. I remember when I was 8, I felt the presence of God, like the world, in my hand and it holding me at the same time. So we are able to be the expression of that love of God within us, right? So you're giving us the key, which is the presence, right? And the connection is really your intuition, right? As you connect to that, you become that presence. And I love that you said it, like it walks you, that higher presence. Like I literally can see like the light flow through me sometimes of my higher self, right? And then angels walk beside me. Like that light is walking you, it's protecting you, it's guiding you. And so listen, open your heart, your mind, your soul, see where your purpose is taking you. Because you said it so beautifully, like it really is easy. I mean, following my soul purpose, you just are like, wow, that happens, like the world works out for you. And it's like that for everybody, when you're listening to that still small voice of love, right? Not the distractions, but that knowingness.
Yeah, and we're going to get distracted. We're human beings. The babies are going to cry, right? The boss is going to call. I forgot to put gas in the car. These things are going to happen. The question is, do we fight them and resist them, or do we make space for them? I had, when I moved to Arizona initially, one of my spiritual teachers took me out into the desert and left me in the middle of the desert. And she said, listen. And she said, just listen. And turned around and walked away from me, got in her car and drove off. And I was like stuck in the middle of the desert. I mean, I'd only been here a few months, right? I'm literally in the middle of the desert somewhere. And if you don't know me, I'm a little dude in a wheelchair. Wouldn't be able to push myself out of the desert. I would have been able to push myself quite a ways then. But I just did what my spiritual teacher said. And I just listened. And when she came back an hour or two later, she said, what do you hear? And I said, oneness. Because even the sounds of the birds and the other animals and the traffic way off in the distance and the wind, I recognized that there was just one song. It was all one movement. It all was coming from one place. It was all in different expressions, but the same energy, the same life, the same origin. And in the awareness of that, um, it's made it really easy for me to be able to reconnect with that, because all I have to do is just go back and listen. And when you start to listen, and often I'll close my eyes because it limits some of the visual distraction. And so if I close my eyes and just sit and listen, I don't move, I'm not intentionally meditating, I'm just listening. The meditation is on what is coming in, and then you listen to what's behind that, and you realize that what's behind that is the isness, the I am, the divine, what you and I might refer to as God, right? One of my favorite quotes says, God is the breath within the breath. God is the breath within the breath. Isn't that beautiful? This so idea that as we breathe in meditation, it's the breath inside of the breath. It's the movement, the life inside of that breath that actually is the divine, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so good. I'm like, are you a poet or something? Because you have all these like beautiful quotes. I'm like, okay, tell us about your book that's coming out. I think it's so cool. I mean, you're obviously a writer, and yeah, I would love for you to share a little bit about that and your personal journey, like of how you got to this moment. Yeah, let people know a little bit more about who you are.
Well, so I'm a little dude in a wheelchair, right? Let me start here. I'm a little dude in a wheelchair that has a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. I was only expected to live until I was 7 years old. And because of that, my mom made sure that I lived the best possible life that I could. And she raised me not to ever say I can't. She would say things like, if I would say, I can't do it, or my sister would say, I can't do it, my mom would say to us, can't never did anything. You know, what else would she say? Can't never did the thing. I forget. She would say something else about that, right? And she would always say, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford's quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So it would always drive us forward. And so I remember being 9 and 10 years old, and I would get myself dressed. You know, I'd put on my little leg braces and my little pants, my little shirt, and my little shoes. Yeah. You know, and I'd yell to my mom, okay, I'm ready for you to help me come get, or I'm ready for you to help me. Let me try again. I'm ready for you to come help me get buttoned and zipped and tucked in. And she would yell back from her bedroom, okay, but I'm busy. You keep trying. And I would say, okay. And well, I would try to tuck my shirt in and work hard on getting myself zipped and my little button or my little snap snapped on my pants, you know, and I'd be rolling around on the floor trying to get the right leverage and angle to get the zipper zipped and the button and the snap snapped and the shirt tucked in. My mom would be sitting in her bedroom while I'm struggling and trying, you know, to get dressed. She'd be sitting in her bedroom on her bed crying because she wanted to come and help me. But she knew that if she did come and help me, the problem is that I would become dependent. So she would give me 10 minutes. She'd wipe her eyes, blow her nose, take a deep breath, open her bedroom door, and walk across the hallway into my bedroom. She wouldn't even come into my bedroom. She'd walk across the hallway and she'd poke her head in, and I would be all zipped and buttoned and tucked in. And she'd say, oh, you don't need my help. You can do it yourself. And she'd turn and walk away, and I'd be like, I do it myself, mommy. Right? And so every day for like 2 years, she did that until all of a sudden, I think I realized, I was like, if I just yell for help and then don't try, eventually she'll come in and help. I don't know if that was the case or not, but you know, for 2 years, this would happen. And every day she would test me and push me because by this point I'd already lived 2 and 3 years longer than I was supposed to. And so there's this process of learning to make the effort, right? Learning to try. And there's research that demonstrates, there's a 20 plus year study on children that were raised in 2 different ways. Children that were raised and given accolades for doing a good job, great job, good job, you know, those kinds of things. And then children that were praised for trying. The children that were praised for trying after the 20 years had succeeded and were far happier than the people who were raised for doing a good job. And the people that were raised for trying would make efforts and try new things, whereas the people that were praised for doing a good job may not actually make the effort to do anything, because they might go, oh, I don't know how to do that. What if I don't do it right? Then I might do it wrong. If I do it wrong, then I'm not going to get the praise that I'm looking for. Ooh. You know, so there's a sort of conundrum that causes paralysis. So I was raised, you know, mom told me I did a good job, but she also really praised me for trying. Keep trying. And she would praise my sister. Keep trying. Don't quit. Right? See, I knew you could do it. Try again. Try another way. Try, be creative. And so there's always this effort to keep going. So here I am, you know, 52 at the time of the recording of this. So I've lived 45 years longer than I was supposed to. And I've jumped out of planes, indoor skydiving, aqua jetpacking, hiked through the Appalachian Mountains with some friends when I was a scout, climbed in the Grand Canyon, climbed in the Arches National Forest. You know, what else? Like, I've been to Japan, I don't know, 13 plus times. You know, I have a 10th degree black belt. I've lived an amazing life. I've lived an amazing life because I was always encouraged to keep going. And so for me, I love life. And I want everybody listening to equally love life. I literally want to be I don't want to be on my deathbed today. I want to live another 100 years. But when I am on my deathbed, I want to be there like saying, man, I'm not ready to go. This was so fun. When can I come back? Wow. You know, and if I pass over to the other side, and if there is some kind of life review, and God's like, hey, little man, you did a pretty good job here and here and here, I'd be like, thanks, sir, you know, or ma'am, or whatever, right? But then I want to say, but when can I come back, right? When can I go back? Because I want life to be so fun for myself and for everybody else that people are literally living the reason that they came. And so for me, when I coach clients or talk from stage, I really want to find out who you are, where you are in your life, what you really want, and how do we get you to that point? What's holding you back so we can find things to let go of so that you can actually live that free, authentic life. Because when you live that free, authentic life and do the things that you truly want to do, and I don't mean just living a hedonistic lifestyle, but I do mean identifying like, this is really, truly important to me, and these other things aren't quite as important. So I'm going to let those go. I don't believe in a sacrifice. I believe in willing exchange. A willing exchange of something that I might want for something that I want more, right? And so maybe it's great to sit around and watch Netflix and chill, right? But maybe what I really want is to be traveling, hence going to Japan so many times, or jumping on a plane any opportunity that I get. You know, I feel like as soon as I get in an airport, I'm like, okay, where are we going now? This is going to be fun, right? I love that. I love airports. I love traveling. I love that new adventure, to new sights, new sounds, new tastes, new smells, new conversations. That's the deliciousness of life for me. It might be different for somebody else, but I want to make sure for me that everybody that I come in contact with realizes they can do whatever they really truly want to be doing. Now look, if you're 5'2" and you want to join the NBA, maybe that's, you know, not something that's going to happen, right? We hear that all the time. But generally speaking, like, there's something in you, I guarantee, that you really want to be doing that you're not doing yet. And I want to make sure that we get people to that space, you know? So that's a little bit about who I am. And let me say one more thing. When I moved to Arizona in 1997, the same spiritual teacher that I mentioned a moment ago said to me, she said, I want you to go home tonight. The very first night I was in Arizona, I want you to go back to your place tonight and sit in prayer and ask, you know, God, what is it that you want me to do? And then just listen. And I said, okay. So I asked, I said, you know, God, I believe that I'm in Arizona for a reason. What is it that you'd like me to do? And then I got quiet. And I didn't just get quiet, I got still, profoundly still. And I like to say, pause for 1 second. Einstein said, nothing changes until something moves. Nothing changes until something moves. And that's great from the physical standpoint, from the physics world, right? But I like to say from the spiritual world, nothing changes until you become still. When you become profoundly still, everything changes. So she said, go home, pray, and ask God what he wants you, or it wants you to do, and then just listen. So I said, okay, God, I believe I'm in Arizona for a reason. What is it that you want me to do? Yeah. And I just got profoundly still. Yeah. This pillar, golden light came down through the ceiling, hit me in the top of the head, filled me up, and said, love. That's the one word that I heard, love. And in that moment, I realized that it didn't matter what I did. What it mattered is that I did it with love, right? And what I came to realize later, after being hit by an SUV and going through physical therapy, tossed out into 3 lanes of traffic and going through physical therapy for 4 months and being in excruciating pain, we finally came to a point where, and this is relevant, okay? Because so many people stop because they feel resistance. So many people stop because they're afraid of the pain. So many people stop because they know that it's going to hurt or be embarrassing. But the doctor said, the PT said, I finally figured out what's wrong with you. Your hip bone is popped out of place. So for 4 months, I was in excruciating pain. He could have popped it back into place on the very first day, right? And he said, this is going to hurt. And I said, let's do it because I'm already in pain. And the question to the audience is, where in your life are you in pain? And what is it that you can say, okay, that looks like it could hurt or be scary, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know on the other side there'll be freedom. Pop! He popped my hip back into place. Right? And it hurt so terribly bad. And then all of a sudden, all the pain dissipated. All the pain from the previous 4 months, all the sadness, all the fear, all the worry, all the angst, all the frustration, all the disappointment, all the sense of being scared about my future, all of that washed away because I chose to go through the pain, popped it back into place. All of a sudden, all that pain goes away. And I was overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude and appreciation and love. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't love for other people. It was learning to love myself so that I could then teach other people to love themselves. And that's what it's about. Learn to love yourself so you can then directly by teaching people or indirectly by showing and demonstrating for people that they can also love themselves. Real freedom starts when you recognize that you matter. Real freedom starts when you recognize that you matter. And when you realize you matter and that love for yourself and that appreciation for yourself and that admiration and that respect for self, all of a sudden, and you realize, if there were 2 of me, I would totally want to be my own friend. When you're in that space, all of a sudden it's real easy to love yourself. And then from there, everything gets much easier. I remember walking by a mirror, in fact, mirror right there in my house, as I walked in my door. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a movement in the mirror. I didn't think, oh, that's me. My mind immediately was like, oh, I love that guy, right? And I turned to look to see who that guy was, and it was me. I was like, oh, that's me. How silly, right? I should have known it was me. It's my mirror in my own house. Nobody else was here but me, right? But my mind didn't think, oh, that's me. My mind immediately went to, oh, I love that guy. So my peripheral vision knew that there was somebody there that my mind recognized who it was, but I consciously didn't realize who it was until I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, that's me. So there's that natural innate sense that I love that guy. I love myself. And then I did it again when I was walking down the street. I think I might have been in New York. I don't know if I was in New York or here in Tucson, but a friend of mine was pushing my wheelchair. And again, out of the corner of my eye, we walked by a restaurant and it was glass on the front. And I saw a reflection. And in the reflection, I was like, oh, I love that guy. And I turned to look and it was me again. And I was like, oh, I must love myself. It's kind of silly and ridiculous, but they were fun little experiences. Yeah, it's just truly innocent and sweet that there was a recognition that on the unconscious level, there really was love for myself. So let me say one more thing. I don't want to commandeer the conversation, but let me say this one more thing. I am working on a book right now called Don't Give Up, Get Up, right? You asked me about that. It's called Don't Give Up, Get Up, because that's my life philosophy. Don't give up, man. Get back up. You can do this. Si se puede. In Spanish, they say, si se puede. Yes, you can, right? But there's also, that's not just my life philosophy. It's a battle cry, right? Don't give up, get up. Like when we're struggling and we're suffering, and we're like, I can't get emotion, I can't do it, I can't, it's just too much. Like I know what's going on biochemically in the brain. You're overwhelmed by norepinephrines, noradrenalines. They're overwhelming the body, so they're creating a sense of paralysis. All you have to do is pour some dopamine into your system. Just by getting excited about something, all of a sudden the level of motivation and drive and excitement and enthusiasm, this need to get up and move, will rise in you and pushes back the norepinephrine. But aside from the chemical compound, You're just like, oh, I can't do it. I just don't feel good about myself. I don't like myself. And you're going through that like self-abuse, and there's that sense of self-loathing, which is sad. I mean, I've gone through it, right? When you're going through it, it's usually because you feel like there's so much to do and you can't get yourself in motion. You're judging yourself based on where you should be, meaning through all of this stuff, instead of being aware of where you are and being respectful of who you are. And so we start to beat ourselves up and we start to judge ourselves. So don't give up, get up, be your battle cry. It's always about the fact that, if for me, from my personal experience in working with my clients, it's almost always about the fact that somebody doesn't feel like they're living up to their expectation or their potential, right? And they're like, well, I should be here. So they're heaping all these loads of things on themselves and not doing anything. But the moment we start taking action, that part of our brain is forgiving, forgives, and then creates space for us to then go, wait a minute, okay, I am taking action. Now it makes it easier to love ourselves.
I love that. So beautiful. It's key. There is something really profound that you said, and I wanted to ask you, what was the part of you that knew you could do it? There was a part of you that knew, which I believe is probably your intuition, that you could do it. And that's in everybody. So I would love for you to expand on that, because you had such a deep connection to that innate knowing within you, so young. And you were like relentless and persistent and like following it and knowing and taking action. Like, yeah, mom, I can do it. Like I would love for you to share more of how you felt that presence within you so young and chose to trust it and take that action.
Yeah, I would love to take take credit for that. But the truth is, I think two things. One, I think I was innately born with this natural drive and this innocence, almost naivety, that I could do things beyond my disability. And secondarily, it was the way I was raised. I wasn't raised to focus on the disability. I was raised to focus on the effort and the ability to accomplish with enough effort and enough creativity and enough drive,
right.
And enough trials and errors,
right.
and enough personal belief, right? Like if I had the right ingredients, I could do it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't an awareness of can't. There wasn't an awareness of my disability.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that I became truly aware of my disability until probably like third grade, when I wanted to give up my leg braces and start walking without them.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know that I was truly aware of my disability and how it might hold me back or how other people might see me until 7th and 8th grade. And of course, like everybody becomes awkwardly aware of their own body and being in those moments. But I think if we circle back to your question, what was that? You could say it was intuition for sure.
Yeah.
If we look up the word intuition, it means consider, right? To consider something, to be aware and calculate and figure out and think about something. But then when we look up the word consider, it means to examine. Now, consider also, we could say the origin of the word intuition comes from a word that means consider, or even deeper back, it means star, right? So humor me for just a second, because I'm going to get really kind of esoteric and maybe a little woo-woo for just a moment. But if we look at that star as the soul, right? And we consider and we examine that soul, that inner light inside of us, that light pushes away darkness. So the light sees all possibilities. Light lights up a room so there's no darkness or shadow in any corner.
Yeah.
Right? And so if there's no darkness in any corner, then there's complete vision. If there's complete vision, there's always a knowing of how to get there.
Yeah.
There's always an intuition, a knowing. If we examine it enough, consider it enough, if we look with light, then the intuition will arise, and wisdom, intuition, think of it like wisdom. The intuition or the wisdom will arise in terms of, oh, go that way, do it this way, be creative in this way. Yeah. And so for me, I think I was just innately born with it, because I've been a spiritual little dude since I was, born. My mom said when I was about 4 years old, I asked her, Mom, why does God have so many names? And she's like, I don't know what you mean. And I was like, well, sometimes he's called this, and sometimes he's called this, and sometimes he's called this, you know. And she was like, I don't know. I don't know what our answer was. But, and then at 5, I said to my friends, see that tree? God's in that tree. See that bush? God's in that bush. See the grass? God's in the grass. God's in you and me. That makes us brothers and sisters. I was 5 talking. I remember I was 5 talking to 2 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know, like, where does that come from?
Right.
And so to ask the question, you speculate that it's my intuition. Sure, if we look at intuition as just wisdom, I think that I just came without the resistance, you know. And I think the way I was raised, my mom was like, no, try, keep going, don't quit, let's try again, be more creative. So there's always the acceptance and the allowance of new ideas and new perspectives, you know. So I'd love to say it was me, but I think it was all gifts to me, you know.
You moved through you. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, just very inspirational.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, the idea of inspiration means to bring in spirit, right? To be lifted up or exalted or excited about things. Yeah. And it reminds me of real prayer. Yeah. Real prayer is not just like sitting down and like, oh God, can you please help me? Right? Real prayer is like, we talk about prayer as speaking and meditation as listening. But what if real prayer, ecstatic prayer, the prayer that creates real inspiration, is wordless? And what if it goes up, and what if it comes down? What if it comes into you from all directions and out of you from all directions simultaneously? What if it's you being aware of the communication in the entire space of consciousness, and you're just bathing in that wisdom that's constantly flowing over you and through you. And so in that space, there's a loss of self, and this ecstatic feeling overwhelms you because you become so filled with this divine love, with this wisdom, and like it becomes orgasmic. You can legitimately lose yourself in this level of ecstasy, this level of prayer. And intuition is in that, because intuition is just wisdom. Intuition is just wisdom listened to. That's all it is. Intuition is just wisdom listened to. And in your case, right, and hopefully in my case on occasion, we don't even know that we're listening to it. We just are floating with it. And then later on, we're like, oh, that was cool. I was totally listening to intuition. That's amazing. Right? It's very blissful. Very blissful.
Yeah, it's very blissful. Yeah, I remember when I started. The bliss was the word that came when I was 19. I was like, bliss, that's the word. You know, like set my alarm to bliss or something. I don't know. Well, we just have a few minutes, right?
What would that sound like if we set your alarm to bliss?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. There's not even like an actual sound. It's just a feeling. It's just like you said, it's an energy, and it's so much rooted in being, you know, it really is.
Do you feel like you lose your body in the being? I mean, not that it's completely gone, but not the awareness of separation of, oh, here's my body, and there's the street, and there are the houses, and there are the chickens, right? But like, does your body start to fade off and become part of all of the background?
It's a great question. For me, I'm more in my body. So the more blissful I am, it's just my body actually moves into that higher state of light and vibration. So I'm experiencing bliss through my body. So I'm more embodied in a state of bliss. Yeah. And bliss more embodied. Yeah. It's more in my body than out.
I definitely understand the more in my body than out. Because that's where I shift people to initially, right? But then is there a place where your body starts to become part of the periphery of your deeper awareness, and you're moving that deeper awareness being the presence, right? And then you're moving the presence as if it's the energy around your body, and the presence is aware of that physical structure called body.
I mean, for me, I can kind of track what you're saying energetically and like float above my body. I still feel like it's better to be in my body so I can carry out the spirit, right? Carry out that energy of love. So I feel like for me, I do a lot of work to stay in my body, right? To practice that. So I think I would really encourage people to find that bliss beingness in your body and be that conduit of that pure light and watch miracles unfold, and watch your life get better and better. And we have a program coming up called Intuitive You Coaching. So it's going to start, I know, right? Going to start on right, I know. So it's going to start September 6th at 5 p.m. Pacific. So this is about fully becoming your intuition, intuitive you, right? Like very much what PJ said. It's like you're becoming it, like you're already it. And so it's activating all of your centers to realize what's there waiting for you, right? Your purpose, your gifts, everything. And then to break through those fears and blocks that might be stopping you. And intuitive you, it actually is it's a different level of actually accessing your guides and angels if you want to, and also manifesting. So, as some of you might know, I teach a lot about monetizing your gifts. So that's our Intuitive Success Club. It's also a certification program. So that's for business, but this is just very much for manifesting, because I realize, a lot of people I work with, it's like they have these great businesses and they make this money. And what they really have wanted is their soulmates and their happiness and fulfillment. So I was like, I really need to create a path for people to be able to just manifest what they want. So it could be the relationship, it could be filling your own sense of fulfillment and happiness, which is at the core of all of success. Maybe it's traveling. Maybe it's, moving to a new place, getting a new house, like whatever it is, it's tuning into that frequency of love within you and just being guided, like we've been talking about this morning. And life it just becomes so easy, and whatever challenges come up, how to face them because you're guided by your best friend, your intuition. It's just so much fun. So you can find out about that at lifeforceconnection.com, and you can click on classes tab and then go down to the very bottom and it says Intuitive You Coaching. And then if you're interested in the certification, it's Intuitive Success Coaching Certification. That's if you want to create a business. But I'm just super excited. It's a group coaching that we have. So starting on September 6th, it's just fun to do that again. And there's private available. But yeah, we really want to get the group as big as possible. And, there's something else really important on my heart that came through to share as you were talking, PJ, is so the orphanage. So I've worked with like 3 orphanages so far. So we've been to Ecuador, Thailand, and Bali. And what we do is we donate funds. So we donate food, money for just resources, and also the intuitive education. So the first part of the module that you'll see in both of these courses I'm telling you about is called the intuitive factor. So we teach that. I teach that to the kids. It's just so phenomenal to support them in their dreams. But what's really it's a little heavy on my heart, but I want it to get lighter. So back in March, I went to Ecuador in the middle of COVID. My dad and I went, and we supported these kids. I taught, we gave them money, and I knew I had to go. And they were in a really crucial point. And I didn't know until I got there that they needed a certain amount of money to make repairs on the building they were in to be able to stay there. So I pushed really hard. Those of you that donated, thank you, to help save the building. So we did it. They were able to save the building. But what happened, like the last week, they sent me an email and I said, we have about 6 months to be able to get a new building before we have to move. So they need a lot more money, basically. So I was being guided as you were saying, hey, Spirit, what do you want me to do? And the message was help the kids. So we donate back to that organization, One Heart Global. So you can go to oneheartglobal.co/mission/ and, proceeds also go to that. So when you sign up to make your dreams happen and follow your intuition, we also give back to the kids. So just know it's a win-win, and it really is a One Heart Global, one mission, just oneness love. But I really want to help them. I don't want them to be separated. There's about 21 kids there in that particular orphanage. And so, I remember my dad and I asked, well, what could happen if not? And they would be separated potentially. And that just would be hard because they're all family. So, and you can also just donate directly to the site. Again, it's oneheartglobal.co. So thanks for listening, everyone. And if that's speaking to your heart, please take action on your intuition.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about you, Abby, is that you don't just talk about it, you do it, and you're not doing it in one location. You're doing it in 3 locations around the world. And it's not impacting just one other life. It's impacting all of these children's lives. And they impact each other. And then when they grow up, they impact their future boyfriends or girlfriends or husbands or wives and children. So the simple fact that you are being guided by your intuition and your heart and your genuine divine love, that divine feminine that flows through you, all of those children become your children, and all of their children become impacted by you. One woman, one person, and everybody who's listening and who says, wow, I really like what Abby's doing. I want to donate too. And you give, or they give, or people you know give. Every single one of you is not just impacting that child. You're impacting the fullness of their future and everyone that they connect with moving forward. It's literally a way of spreading love. Because when kids receive, they're so grateful. And what is gratitude? But the step that precedes love. When we feel gratitude, all of a sudden, we feel a sense of real love.
Yeah. 100%. Thank you. I feel so grateful for your comment. Thank you, PJ. It's amazing. Yeah. I think I might have shared before on another show, like one of the girls came up and, I was teaching, she was kind of like just sending me like a little bit like, what is this? Like, I wasn't really sure. She was like taking, almost like making fun of or something. By the end of it, she just came up and gave me a huge hug and was crying and said, thank you. So you just realize that like sometimes there can be some walls or barriers, but at the heart of it is love. So just to have that intuition, that patience and understanding to just know the truth. So, PJ, we only have like 4 minutes. Can you share really quick about you and how people can get connected with you, your coaching, your programs, anything you want to share?
Sure, absolutely. It's just easy enough to find me through pjswisdom.com, pjswisdom.com. I think on Instagram, I'm the PJ's Wisdom.
Okay.
And then everywhere else, I think I'm just PJ's Wisdom, except on YouTube, because I haven't started to really build that out yet.
Okay.
That's easy enough to get a hold of me that way. You can just email me if you want. I'm super easy. Email me at pj@pjswisdom.com. If you have questions about intuition or love or overcoming obstacles or letting go, I've really identified that I just scale down when I teach or when I speak from stage. I'm talking about letting go and overcoming obstacles, but really there's only 2 things that I teach: letting go and empowered action. And if we look at them like yin and yang has the little dot of one color and the other, and then the dot of the other color in the opposite side, right? So when we look at letting go and empowerment, there's a little bit of personal empowerment or empowered action inside of letting go, and a little bit of letting go inside of empowered action. When you really start to study them, they start to just flow together. To be able to let go is an empowered action. And when I start to, when I want to take an empowered action, I have to be able to let go of something to take that action. And so there's a constant cycle of these 2 things moving together. So if you're personally feeling limited, or there's an obstacle you can't get past, personally or in your relationship or with business, or not necessarily business, but your professional life, or parenting or something like that, reach out. Maybe I've got a little wisdom that I can share. Maybe
I'm sure you do. And I love that you said that, let go so you can take the action. And when you said that, I felt it. It's like you let go to create space to then open up to more love, to take action from that place of your intuition. And then it just flows. I just love that.
100%. Letting go is really, awareness is always the first option. The first piece. I have to be aware of what is in my way so that I can let go, right? But letting go is a quintessential component. The more we let go of, the more of that love, of that divine comes through. And even then, when we let go, the more comes through. The more we let go, the more love. The more we let go, the more love. The more we love, the easier it is to let go. It's true. It's 100% true. Letting go is the secret power, always. What can you let go of today, right now?
That's awesome. I love it. I love you. You're awesome. Well, meditate on that one, everyone. We will see you next Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Have a beautiful week, and we look forward to connecting more. Take care.
Okay, I love you guys. Follow Abby. She's amazing. Join Intuitive You, September 6th. It's going to be amazing.
Follow PJ. He's amazing too. And so are everybody else listening. Woo! All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye.